Hi everyone, how are you doing? Last week we began to explore the spiritual practice Acorn. Ask, connect, obey, relay, next. Could help us in serving what we find God doing in Wiltshire and beyond. I suggested we started asking, Lord, who are you putting on my heart today? What do you want to say to them? Have you tried that? How have you got on? Dave and Marion shared on family WhatsApp how they have asked and seen spiritual conversations start. Chiquita and Andy have also been encouraged by spiritual conversations that have just started up without seeming to need to ask. In the past, we've talked about the spiritual atmosphere changing, when it seems to get easier to talk about Jesus to people, and they seem more open to it. There is some evidence that people are seeing that across the country. We just need to keep looking to Jesus and pushing in as the Spirit prompts us. This week my Bible readings covered Paul's shipwreck on Malta at the end of Acts. In July, Laura told us the story of the voyage, the shipwreck, and Paul being bitten by a snake as they built a fire on the beach after swimming ashore. You can see that video on our YouTube channel. The bit after caught my eye. The governor of the island puts them all up for 3 days. While they're there, Paul hears that the governor's father is unwell. Paul visits him, chats to him, and then prays for him, and he's healed. As the news spread, all those on the island who are ill come to be healed. If, like Paul, I had been falsely accused and imprisoned on trumped-up charges, had 3 governors agree I was innocent, but they were too afraid to release me. To move things on, had to appeal to Caesar. Had my advice that we should winter where we were rather than continue with the voyage to Rome ignored. Survived a shipwreck and a snakebite. I think I would have felt entitled to kick back, rest and recover. But no, Paul, on hearing of the ill father, is prompted to go and see him, and has the faith to pray for him to be healed. When we ask God something, we believe that he will reply. Often the challenge is hearing that still small voice, and sometimes being patient for the answer. How does God speak to you? We are wonderfully and fearfully made, unique or one-off. So there is no one way. God often speaks to Andy through pictures. The last time I felt God spoke to me through a picture was 3 days before my father's heart attack in the week leading up to Cabaret. The picture was a real comfort and help at that time. When I ask God who is he putting on my heart, usually a name pops into my mind. I believe that is God speaking to me. Early in lockdown, Dave found when he was before the Lord that names, often of people he hadn't spoken to in years, would come to mind. And when he called them, it was a real God appointment. Many years ago, at the event for revival, in one of the meetings when things were kicking off, in a good way, I hasten to add, Gerald Coates, then leader of Pioneer, encouraged all of us in the meeting that God was speaking to us there and then. He said, you know and love Jesus. He loves you and delights to spend time with you. Don't dismiss that thought that's just popped into your mind as something that you've made up. At that moment, a thought or a Bible verse or something like that had popped into my mind. Before that, I would have thought it was just me. Even if the name that's popped into my mind when I've asked God is one I've brought up, me taking the time to contact them and listen to how they are is only going to help and encourage them. So I would encourage you, be a little bold, take the step of faith. When asking God what he would like to say, we should expect it not to contradict the Bible and to be encouraging, edifying and something that will build the person up, even if it is someone we'd like to tear a strip or two off. When I talked about what's motivating me, I mentioned the promises of God that jumped out at me from my Bible readings. I have started asking God if there's anything from the reading that he would like to say to the person he's putting on my mind. I talked too about spiritual pathways, ways we become more aware of the presence of God. If God speaks to you through creation, then maybe asking him these questions when out walking in our beautiful countryside. In the parade of shops I walk past each day to and from the office, one of the businesses closed completely during lockdown. As things have eased, a new business has opened. In the current climate, that's really brave. Over the last week or so, as I've walked past it, I felt a prompting to chat to the owner and ask if there was anything I could pray for them. On Wednesday, Sophie had asked me to buy a mask, and this shop sells masks at the sideline. So I dropped in, and as I bought the mask, made conversation. I heard why they'd set up the shop, their fears about the effect of another lockdown. And when I mentioned I was a church leader, the fact they were Catholic and listened to lots of services online. I asked if there was anything I could pray for them, and they were really appreciative. The main request was the business. So I'll be praying God blesses the business and it prospers. More next week as we look at being bold and obeying him and acting on his answers to those two questions. Who are you putting on my heart today? What would you like to say to them? Thank you. Bye.